All right, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to everyone who is confused. This is a live stream that we typically do every single week inside of exclusively our private Facebook group for Producer Accelerator members. But this week, we are doing it here on the YouTube channel because there's a ton of value here. It's super helpful and valuable. All right, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Our members to get feedback, and this is definitely one of those things that our members have said is one of the most valuable pieces of our course. But today we're going to do it here on YouTube, just to give you guys a little bit of sneak peek, and also just an opportunity for us to all have some fun and be here live on the channel. So this week, a lot of Producer Accelerator people here. I'm happy to see that most of you guys have made it, so that's awesome. To those wondering, super helpful and valuable. The only people that are submitting are our students. We have students that submit every single week to these Feedback Fridays. This happens every single week. The delay is back on YouTube. Just to give you guys a little bit of sneak peek, and is there an issue with audio for us to all have some fun and be here live on the channel? So hold on a sec, guys. Check. All right. Are we getting audio here? Gotta love technology. Are we good? Wow. Can we hear any audio? Are we good? Check. All right. Are we getting audio here? Gotta love technology. Are we good? Wow. Okay. We'll see if this worked. Are we good? How's this? Check 1, 2. Check, 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 check. How are we doing? Is this working? Check 1, 2, 2, 2, check. All good. Oh my goodness, that was fun. Gee whiz. Literally over a year of doing these and never had a problem like this before. So I think we're good. We're going to go ahead and just get started because that took a lot of time. So we are just going to go ahead and rock and roll here. Oh man, oh man. Okay, here we go. Gotta love it. Let's just go ahead and rock and roll here, okay? So we are going to start with Layla. Layla had a submission. We have a lot of first-timers here today. I believe actually 5 out of the 6 submissions that we have are first-timers, so that's awesome. I think Roger's the only one who has had a submission before, so we're going to go ahead and just get started, and we will just go a little bit longer than normal to make up for the lost time. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's crank.
But then
Awesome. So this is a really good submission, really good first time submission. For those who are wondering what's going on, this is our weekly private community feedback Friday that we do every week in our course. So the people who submitted are students. Wow, this is really good. Leia, I got that wrong. I apologize. The vocals on here are really great. I really love your voice. Really, really great vocals. So a few things I really like about this. First of all, like just the songwriting on this is really good. I really, really enjoyed vocally this section in here. I love that. Like when you go up in the living room, that whole thing is really, really cool. So I think vocally there's some really solid stuff in here. One of the things that's kind of just an overarching thing that I was thinking was the vocals were a little quiet in the sense of everything else. So overall, like I would just bring the vocals up, especially since your vocals are a little bit, they're not like this super upfront, like in your face type of a vocal. You kind of are going to need to bring that up a little bit more just mix wise. That's a really simple fix. So that's not you singing. Well, really great vocal one way or the other. So I would bring that up for sure. The drums on this was one of the things that I was really craving something more in terms of the drum production. So if I were to kind of skip around different sections of the song, it's like we're like 30 seconds in here. Let's go a little. So I kind of basically just went to all different sections of the song, and the drums are pretty much doing the same thing. So this is one of those things that I was really craving that the drums would do something a little bit different, do something a little bit more unique throughout. I think the drum sounds themselves could probably use a little bit of work in general. If you go into the drum module portion of the course, I talk a lot about the layering. I have the two different lessons on, one's on snare layering, one's on kick layering. So like to me, the kick here is one of those things that I'm kind of really wanting a little bit more. Like you can definitely hear it, but there's not this like really nice solid kick holding everything down. And so that's one of those things that for me, at least when I listen to this, I'm thinking, man, it would be really solid to have just a kick that you could really actually hold everything down throughout the entire production. The snare, I like the snare sound. You know, I think the snare has a nice like kind of tail to it. It would be kind of cool to have a snare that has like a little bit more of a punch on the front of the snare. So that's like, again, if you're wanting to know like more about what I'm talking about, if you go into the drum module in the snare layering lesson, I literally cover this exact thing. So what I would do is find another snare sound to layer in with the current snare sound that you have right now, but find one that has more of an actual like pop on it to give it a little bit more presence on the front. I think the snare that you have right now, it has a nice little bit of a tail, kind of almost like more of a splash, which sounds really great. But I think the drums themselves, in terms of like the pattern that you're using, you might want to try to find some ways to be a little bit more creative in terms of what this specific pattern is actually doing. So let's kind of go ahead a little further along in here. Yeah, so like these sections in here that are a little bit bigger. Face down inside the bathtub, drowned out the sun. You know, I actually really love this. Billy suggested tambourine. Tambourine would be really solid, like just adding, or a shaker even. Just something to give a little bit more of that kind of a pulse to it. The other thing you could do is utilize some ride cymbal, because that adds a little bit of a wash. And I was noticing that there's not a whole lot of like moments where everything's kind of landing in terms of like crash cymbals and things like that. Yeah, so I can hear the crash cymbal, but like it's like really, really quiet. Excuse me. So that's one of those things that you can use, and it just adds like a little bit of a wash and texture into the whole production itself. And then the whole ending here, Jesse Keller said this too, the ending is sweet. Like the vocals in the ending here is really, really solid. So let's talk about the bass just for a second. To me, the bass has this kind of, like some mid-rangey thing going on here. I'm gonna actually kind of show you what I'm talking about. If we were to just kind of, I'm guessing it's probably in this like 200-ish range. Yeah, you can really hear that. If you're listening with like headphones or monitors, you're gonna hear that way better than if you're watching on like a phone or something. So it's like this kind of like really low, kind of woofy kind of sound. You might want to just take a little bit of that out. That bass itself is not sounding bad, but it could definitely use some of that little like low mid stuff kind of carved out, because right now it's just kind of a unnatural sound. The other thing is that, like, as far as the bass, I've talked about this trick before, is actually using something like Portal. I'm going to actually do this here. Uh-oh. That's kind of weird. I don't know why my screen is doing that. So Portal is a plugin from Output, or not Portal, I'm sorry, Thermal. And in Thermal here, if you actually go in, you can add some width to this. And just to make that bass sound a little bit more thick and wide, that's going to definitely help too, just, you know, add an element of texture to that bass. But one of the big things that I was kind of hitting on just a little bit earlier was that the drums were not really changing a whole lot. And the same thing goes for the arrangement as a whole. It feels very much, I'm trying to think of the word, like synonymous, like not synonymous, but very similar throughout the whole production. So there are different things that you can do as far as changing the texture, articulation. So let's just go ahead to like this area here. A little further ahead. So when you're doing this whole like verse moment here, your guitar is just kind of still strumming out. One of the things you could do is do more palm muted stuff to contrast what's happening earlier. So you're giving this kind of same strumming vibe in the guitar earlier in the song, and this might be a good place to put something that sounds a little bit different with the same instrument, just in terms of the actual articulation of the instrument. So this isn't something where you need to go find different sounds necessarily, but one of the things you could do is, you know, maybe do more of a palm muted pattern or something, you know, something like that, to just change the texture. And then once you get into this moment, go back to that strumming. Right here, I'm talking about. And then I think right here is also where, you know, adding like a ride cymbal, tambourine, shaker, something to just kind of elevate the drum production as a whole is definitely going to help this moment feel quite a bit better. Patrick actually just said a really great suggestion too, and that's adding some transitions into this track. I don't think this track needs crazy transitions, so don't be going and like adding like massive swells and stuff like that. But even like some fills, you could do like a reverse, like you've got this clean kind of guitar tone, you could do like a reversed chord or something that leads into this chorus, just to kind of give us a little bit of something that just pushes us into the next section. Overall though, I mean, this is sounding quite nice. There's one star, the second verse, maybe it needs to just be a little bit louder. Okay, yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, this is a palm mute guitar. Okay. Yeah, I think even like coming up with just almost not like a melodic pattern, but just like some sort of a pattern that kind of really catches you going. So one way or the other, this is a really solid submission, especially for a first time submission. This is really great. I think the songwriting on here is great. The vocals sound really, really nice. The first time I listened, I was like, man, I was wanting more vocal production, but then listening this time around, I was hearing a lot more stuff than the first time. So I think you did a really solid job on this. So what I would say is the drums, to me, and just some of those ways of like differentiating section by section arrangement wise, those are the two big things that if it were me saying focus on, you know, one or two things, those are the two things I would be focusing on, which again, the drum part of what I'm talking about, I go through in the course quite extensively. Sweet. So we are going to move on to Ariel. Ariel's not going to be here today, so he's going to be watching the replay. So let's go ahead and rock and roll with Ariel here. And this track is, I believe, in Hebrew. So I did get the lyrics sent to me, but just so everyone is aware, this is not in English.
וגדול עליי. אני רוצה להשתחרר, להתחיל להתבונן, להתגבר, לגדור את הגדר, לצייר את הדרך ולרוץ. תיני ניי ניי ניי. עד מתי נצטרך לחכות שהסוף יגיע, להיות רק טוב ולגלות שהעולם שלו פשוט להאמין ולהבין שאם עשיתי מספיק אז עשיתי את שלי, ולהמתין שיצמח עמלי. הסוף הוא לא שלי, הסוף זה לא אני. לחיות באמונה זה הכי טובה. הסוף הוא לא שלי, בדרך מגלים מי אני. מי אמר שהצלחה היא בהישגים? פרנסה ושנות חיים, חיים רק ממך. יש רק כוח אחד וידי, שאני חופשי תמיד להחליט. הסוף הוא לא שלי, הסוף זה לא אני. לחיות באמונה זה הכי טובה, כי הסוף הוא לא שלי, בדרך מגלים מי אני. הסוף הוא לא שלי, הסוף זה לא אני. לחיות באמונה זה הכי טובה. הסוף הוא לא שלי, בדרך מגלים מי אני.
Dang. That was a journey. You know, honestly, I love songs like these that take me on a musical journey, because the way that this song starts and the way that the song kind of gets into it is not, I mean, like, let's go back to the beginning here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's the tempo, and then let's skip ahead.
פשוט להאמין ולהבין שאם עשיתי מספיק אז עשיתי את שלי.
1, 2, 3. Like, there's some really cool stuff happening rhythmically once he actually adds the drums in here. I love the start to the song. It's actually really, really a great start. I love that. I think that's a really cool start, and then the way you kind of transition. The transit. I want to go back to this transition where you actually change the tempo here. Okay, so one thought that I have here, just to make this transition a little bit smoother, you could put a fill with the drums, or some sort of a fill even with some of the instrumentation that you're using once you start this moment, to help kind of get this started. I think that might be one thing that would help it. I mean, it wasn't like jarring in a, whoa, what the heck happened necessarily, but I think this would absolutely help in terms of actually making that transition. But yeah, I think that would definitely help with the transition, first of all. So that's kind of the first thing. I have a lot of kind of notes on this that there's a lot of kind of different stuff and some small things. So I'm trying to kind of categorize what I want to cover first. Okay, the very first thing let's talk about is the drums. So the drum production on this, there's a lot of stuff I like what the drums are doing. First of all, like I like what the drums are doing. So like that kick sounds pretty nice. The snare, I mean, the sounds are nice. One is I think that, no, so Jason, this is a master track. So this is not, this is just a bounce on everything. So this is not actually his every single track, if that makes sense. So this is like actually the mixed track. I just threw gain on here to get a little bit more volume on it because it came in pretty quiet. So as far as the drums on here, I was really thinking that this would sound really nice to put some parallel compression on here on the drums. And that is going to help beef up that sound itself. So I talk about this in the mixing portion of the course, Ariel. I know Ariel's not here, but when you watch this, Ariel, that's going to help make these drums sound a little bit more fat and beefy. Overall, like you can just add volume to it. That's going to help. But as far as just getting some of the meat and bones and actually making this sound a little bit more beefy, that's one of the things I think overall would help a lot with the drums. There are all of these moments in here where there are some dry moments and then there are some really kind of more wet moments. And so what I mean by that is like right in here. So I'd say that's like really dry just in terms of reverb, right? There's not like a whole lot of reverb on anything. Everything's pretty dry overall. So that's not much different. Like right here is what I'm talking about. Like whenever you have the horns come in, you start adding some keyboard instruments. There's this kind of jarring effect to me that's happening where you have one moment where things are really dry, and then the next moment, like right in here, there's reverb on stuff. And so from a spatial perspective, it's a little bit confusing to me, and it's not like a massive difference, and it's not like a massive problem. That's what I'm saying, not difference. It's a big difference. But I would say that you should probably add a little bit of reverb on some of these dry parts, because that's going to help make the connection from section to section feel a little bit more cohesive, so to speak. Either that or make it all dry. You can obviously do that. I think once you start adding some of the reverb and stuff like that, especially on the keyboard elements, on the horns that don't have reverb are really hard to make sound realistic when you're using horns like these. And so the horns that you have are sounding pretty good. But I would definitely try to add a little bit more reverb like on your vocal. It doesn't need to be a lot, and you can differentiate section by section with how much you want to do. A lot of times I will have, a really small amount of reverb on like a verse, and then I'll increase the reverb on the chorus, or even use a completely different reverb on the chorus. But there's not going to be like one whole moment is super dry unless it's very, very much on purpose, which in this particular case, it comes across as a little bit more jarring and less on purpose than the opposite, so to speak. I really like the double vocals that you did. I like the vocals in general. I think the vocal production is really pretty nice. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Works some at times instrumentally, but the voice is so prominent, it should have more. Yeah. I was also thinking that the vocal could use more shimmer on it, like more brightness. Like right now, obviously us male singers, it's a little bit harder to have all that brightness and shimmer on it. So what I would do, I talk about this a lot, I would probably be leaning more towards like a tube EQ and cranking somewhere between like 5 and 7K. And so I could actually go ahead and do that here. I don't know why my screen is doing this whenever oh, nope, that's not the one I want. I'm just going to use a stock one because I'm pretty sure Ariel uses Logic. So this right here is what I'm talking about. So like 6K, you'll be able to hear this on his vocal. I'll go to one of those places where it's a little more dry. So don't worry about the drums because this is obviously on the whole track that you're hearing this, but just really pay attention to the vocals exclusively. So I'm going to turn this off right now. Let's go and loop this. All right, so let's listen to this section. So this is no EQ. So let's just listen to that one phrase. Here it is with it on, boosting a little bit over 5 dB, around 6K. So again, that's on the whole track, so you can hear it on the drums quite a bit. So tube, this is just a style of EQ. So this is a tube EQ. It just means that the, yeah, I'm not going to get into all that, but there are different styles of EQs. Tube EQs like this one, in my opinion, tend to sound better when you're boosting higher frequencies like this. They add a little bit more of a crispness to it. I guess that's kind of how I hear it. But you can hear that in the vocal, that without it, again, with it. Obviously, again, you can hear on the drums and stuff like that too. But yeah, it makes a really big difference in the vocal, just adding some shimmer, some brightness. It is subtle. I'm not saying that this is like a, whoa, look at this, it just made like the biggest difference ever. But it does make a difference. The horns, I really enjoyed the horns than what you did here. I'm going to skip ahead here. Oh, so. Yeah, that sounds really good. Really good job on the horns processing and stuff like that. I think that really, really makes a big difference in terms of the whole production. But again, it's like that reverb. It's like add a little bit more reverb before then. So what's interesting is what he's doing in this production here is very different than what Leia did in that production, where this is actually really good side by side, because you can see that this production is constantly going somewhere new, right? Like if we were to just pick random places, if you were to pick random places to kind of jump around to, something new is happening all the time. So let's kind of do that. So you got the double vocals, drums, the guitars. Let's skip ahead. Got the drums kind of doing a different groove. You got the horns. Skip it here. Yeah, so it's like, it's just constantly taking us on a journey. I think that's a really good marker of a good production, just in general, like good arrangement. One of the things too, I was thinking, when you kind of do this palm muted thing with the guitar, where is it? I think it'd be really cool if you added a little bit of delay on this. Like, make it subtle, don't go crazy on it. I know I've talked about this like so much that y'all Producer Accelerator people are probably gonna laugh at me, but the replica delay on diffusion mode is like really, really good. I would add just a little bit of delay on that, just to make it sound a little bit more unique than just the plucked guitar. It's a really cool part, but I think that would kind of elevate that whole thing. The other thing is this transition here. Let's kind of go ahead. Okay, so this transition, I think this transition could use some work. So let's kind of look at this a little bit more zoomed in. Yeah, so you're doing this build with the jump, do 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 da da da. You kind of do this little hit thing with the horns. The reason this kind of falls flat for me is because you're not doing it with everything. So what I mean by that is the drums are building, everything's building, and then you have that hit, bum, 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 that syncopated hit with the horns. So what you should do that's going to help make this really get elevated is have the bass hit with that and have the drums hit with that, boom, bum, 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 boom. So everything is hitting with those notes. So just listen again and notice how when he has those horns doing those hits, the horns are kind of doing those hits by themselves. Yeah, so you kind of do like a boom-ka with the drums, but I'm saying get those drums hitting with that. So you could do all toms, bump, 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 or you could do kick with crash, something like that, kick with open hi-hat. There's kind of a lot of different ways you could do it, but having the bass hit with that, bump, 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 and then boom, get right into it. The other thing is that when you land on this next part, you have this kind of like build, 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 and then where do we land? We kind of land and it doesn't actually dynamically kind of explode. So again, let's kind of pay attention to that once we get into this next section, the landing point, it's not like a, oh yeah, like we just landed on the moment. Here we go. So Brian, is there a limit on how dynamic you want to make the arrangement? At some point, it seems like it wouldn't sound like the same song anymore, but I'm not sure where the limit is. Yeah, that's a good question. So when I'm saying dynamic, I'm not even saying like just throw all this stuff. Like something dynamic could be as simple as just like what dynamic, like dynamic in terms of volume is one thing, right? And then just in terms of like what sound choices are you using? I think that there's definitely, you know, too much that could happen. I don't think that there's too much happening in this one, where, you know, the intro, the start of the song compared to everything else is obviously very, very different. It's a very unique start to the song. But as far as but as far as like the rest of this, he's doing this horns thing. That's kind of like one idea in my mind. And then he's doing this like more guitar-y kind of a thing. And so I think, yeah, it really depends on the genre. It depends on the style that you're doing. But yeah, I mean, like there's definitely too much, but I don't know if I would call that dynamically too much as just the arrangement is too much. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Ariel, it will be available afterwards if you can get through the first 10 minutes of me having technological problems. Oh man, that was fun. Okay, so as far as yeah, so I was gonna go to one last part here. Yeah, so this is kind of like the instrumental moment here. Okay, so yeah, you've got this little instrumental section, excuse me. And this to me, it feels like you're kind of coming off of a big moment. So this to me feels like it was kind of just thrown in, like this 4 to 8 bars or whatever it is. It feels like it was kind of just thrown in, and I'm not really sure what purpose this is serving musically in terms of the actual songwriting component of this, or the compositional component of this, because we've got this moment here. Just for drums, all these productions that I'm listening to are students of our program. Yeah, so you kind of have this interesting moment here leading up to all of this, to where, for me listening to it, I'm kind of wondering, what's the purpose of this? Like, why do we have this instrumental moment? And so part of me wonders if we even need this kind of section in here until you have your vocals come back in. Yeah, there's a part of me that kind of, I'm not just saying you should just chop this up, but if you do not chop this up and just jump to this part sooner, right in here, then I think that you need to do a little bit more instrumentally in this moment, because otherwise you have pretty much just drums and basically guitar here, and you kind of do a little bit of a vocal thing, and then you get back into your kind of chorus moment. And to me, it's not really a bridge. It kind of just feels like hey, we're just going to kind of jam for a sec, and then we're going to get right back into it. And so to me, this is what I would do. I would probably just say, you know what, this doesn't really feel like a super necessary moment. And if I were to take it away, it's not like people are gonna be like, well, that was weird. If anything, it's like, oh yeah, like we're gonna hit this chorus again. I think that would make the most sense. So again, really kind of up to you as far as what you want to do. But my thought is, if you do keep this, maybe add some horns in here, add some of those keyboard parts in here, just kind of elevate this moment a little bit more, so it feels like there's actually some sort of a purpose being served with this moment, instead of just like hey, guitar drums just gonna jam for a second here. Oh, okay, now we're getting back into the chorus. That was really one of the last thoughts that I had on this. But honestly, Ariel's been in our program for, I think, about a year, pretty much since the beginning. And wow, it's the improvement is stellar. So really, really good job, Ariel. I remember listening to one of your tracks like probably close to a year ago, and the improvement is really phenomenal. So really well done. We are going to move on. Hopefully YouTube does not hate me. I didn't actually think about this until we got on the stream, but this is a remix. So Morrow, are you here? I think I saw Morrow. We're going to go ahead and rock and roll. So this is a remix. Again, hopefully YouTube doesn't just kill me on this for playing this, but if for some reason this stream goes down, that's probably why. I don't think it will be, but they might just demonetize it, I guess. We'll see.
so many dreams, baby, you and me, said forever and I believed it. Now it's 4 a.m, I'm wide awake again, going over our memories and fools go rushing out. I just don't know how I'm supposed to be alright when you're not around. Cause outside nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. So many things that we've been through. I'm not the same, not after all that's been said and done. I don't even feel like I'm back at one. Nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. I've been broken, lost, took you running off. Need you now like the air I'm breathing. You're still on my mind, and when I close my eyes, you're the only thing I see. And fools go rushing out. I just don't know how I'm supposed to be alright when you're not around. Cause outside nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. So many things that we've been through. I'm not the same, not after all that's been said and done. I don't even feel like I'm back at one. Nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. I'm not the same, not after you. I'm not the same. Fools go rushing out. I just don't know how I'm supposed to be alright when you're not around. Cause outside nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. So many things that we've been through. I'm not the same, not after all that's been said and done. I don't even feel like I'm back at one. Nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. I'm not the same, not after you. I'm not the same, not after all that's been said and done. I don't even feel like I'm back at one. Nobody gets me like you do. I'm not the same, not after you. I'm not the same, not after you.
Yeah, this is really good. Another first-time submitter. Thank you for the submission. And I believe this was one of those submissions that Morrow said he has not gone through really much of the course. So the question about being too late to submit, the only people that are submitting are students of our course Producer Accelerator. So as far as this goes, man, the soundscape on this, is really quite nice. I really enjoy all the textures that you add. Really verby kind of wash of sound, which stylistically I tend to be a fan of. I tend to enjoy that quite a bit. There were some moments that I was kind of wishing there was a little bit of a relief from that. So obviously there are times where you want to, like, the wash and the soundscape and all the textures and stuff are super, super nice. But there are other times where it's really nice to kind of pull back on that and essentially allow for things to kind of dry up a bit. So it's kind of funny because in the last submission, we're talking about you need it to be a little more wet, right? And so obviously with this particular case, there's a little bit of me that's like, man, there are some moments where I'm kind of wanting it to kind of be tamed down. I'm not even saying less wet. I'm just saying adding a little bit of reprieve from all of the kind of the soundscape, if you will. And I thought a really good moment to do that, and you sort of did it here, was in the bridge.
I just don't know how I'm supposed to be alright.
But there's something in there that's kind of filtered out because I can kind of hear the main kind of a thing that's going on. I think that sounds really good, but there's something else that's on top of that that seems to have a lot of reverb on it. It sounds a little filtered out, where my ear's kind of trying to pay attention to what that thing is, and it's distracting from the vocal. So I think in this moment, this is a really good moment to kind of bring things down a little bit and allow that vocal to be the main thing, at that moment. And actually, one of the things I was thinking about in this section, and just listen to the vocal in particular at this transition here. So basically, once we get to about this moment into where you see the waveform drop off, that's the bridge. Notice how when this transition happens, the vocal gets lost a little bit by the instrumental. So we're going to back up here for a little bit of context. Like I have no idea what the lyrics were right here, because you have all of the wash happening and kind of everything goes right, and the vocal comes in. The vocal is just kind of getting drowned by that. Now, one thing you can do is just turn the vocal up, which I think you should do in general. I was thinking the vocals needed to be a little bit more present overall throughout the track. That was one of the just overarching themes. For a good chunk of it, it didn't bother me, but in this moment in particular, at the bridge, I'm like, man, the vocal needs to be like the main thing right here.
I just don't know how I'm supposed to be alright.
Yeah, so right here, it sounds to me like the vocal is almost balanced with the rest of the instrumental, as if it's as important as everything else, but it needs to be more important, right? And so we've talked about this in the mixing side, which I know you haven't gotten there since you just joined. But in the mixing portion of the course, I talk about how a great mix is actually not a balanced mix, right? So like a great mix is a mix that has tiers. It's actually multidimensional. And so you need to actually, think about it like photography, right? So if you're going to take a picture, if everything is in focus, then what are you supposed to pay attention to, right? So if instead, a good photographer is going to understand, hey, if I have a person, right, then that person needs to be the focal point, maybe it's their face or whatever, and then everything else is going to be out of focus or kind of blurred out. And obviously the level at which you do that can change. Like in some moments you want everything to be super, super, super blurred out. For those of you photography geeks like me and video people, you're going to want to have things where like you got that bokeh, which is like the lights that are just like all completely out of focus and stuff like that. Looks super cool. And that is where you actually have the vocal like way more present and everything else is kind of pushed down. So try to think about it that way. Like what is the most important thing in every moment? And then your mixing decisions, your mixing choices are going to be based on that. So that's one of those things, just generically speaking, broadly speaking. But I think if you start orienting yourself to start thinking that way when you're actually approaching a mix, it makes a really big difference in how you actually think about it. The percussion on this sounded really solid overall. I think the kick and the bass are kind of competing for space, in my opinion. So let's go back here.
I've been broken, lost, took you running off, need you not like the air.
Yeah, so it's kind of in this moment where I feel like the kick and the bass are competing for room, where they're both really low and they're both taking up a lot of that low stuff. But it doesn't really feel like one of them is taking up more of the higher stuff. And so when you're mixing your kick and your bass together, you don't want both to be existing in the same spot, the same volume and stuff like that. You kind of want to choose, hey, in this moment right now, I'm going to let the bass or the kick really kind of hold down the fort, so to speak, on the low end. And then I'm going to mix the bass so it has a little bit of that top end so that it's cutting through the mix, or vice versa. You can have the bass that holds all that stuff, and then your kick needs to have a little bit more of that top end to kind of cut through. To me, in this moment, it sounds like the bass would function better kind of holding the fort down, so to speak, on the low stuff, because you've got a really great sounding bass here. And so the kick to me is the thing that's actually kind of getting lost. And so what I would probably try to do is find a kick that actually is going to kind of cut through. So Patrick also said you could sidechain on the bass. You could absolutely do this. You could sidechain on the bass, and that's going to allow the kick to speak through a little bit more. I have lessons on sidechaining in the mixing module of the course. But the other thing you could do is layer up this kick. Armin, you said the kick is low, not the bass. They both are, actually. And I'm saying that the bass is actually the thing that's holding down here.
Lost, took you running off, need you.
So if you listen to that, it's actually the bass that's holding down most of the stuff on the low end there. And the kick is actually not the thing that is actually really speaking out the most here. What I'm saying is that the kick should have a little bit more presence. And so what you're saying about finding a better kick, I totally agree. You should find a better kick. And I'm saying that that kick should have a little bit more on the top, so it's actually speaking through and cutting through in the mix altogether. So the bass is really holding things down pretty well. I'm just saying you're kind of losing the kick. So, and the reason that's happening is because they're competing for space. The other thing is on the, it was kind of a little further along in here. Shoot, where was it? Second chorus. Yeah, so it was in the second chorus here. So you got this boom, 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 kind of percussion thing happening. Like it almost sounds like a distant kind of Tommy thing. I was really wanting to have some more like percussion happening here that kind of was like quote unquote underwater. Like, so, I mean, if you have something like Evolve or Evolve Mutations, those are really good options. A lot of times I'll build these out from scratch from just using samples and, doing some like a kick snaps with like a lot of reverb that are filtered out. So I would probably be taking this moment in here, the first half of this chorus, because you end up adding the drums later. Because again, you got that bum, 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 but you're not getting it boom, so that's kind of one of those things where, filtering is like beautiful in moments like these. Filtering with a combination of reverb or delay. I'll be using something like a kick that's kind of just boom, that kind of a thing that's got a little bit of a tail to it, so to speak. And then I like adding these snaps that are kind of like muddy snap. I call them muddy snaps, where it's not just like a snap, is like kind of like that, where you gets that, and then you throw a little bit of delay on there with some reverb and then filter it all out on the highs. So basically you're cutting all the highs with a low pass filter. Those things can sound really, really phenomenal when you do that stuff, and it can add this really cool texture, and especially if you start implementing some panning alongside it. This is one of those moments where it's like you could do something really, really cool with some percussion just to add like this kind of underwater sounding percussion. I think that's something you should consider doing. Where was it? 3:30, 3 minutes and 30 seconds was on my other notes here that I had. Yeah, so this transition here, you had this kind of thing going on. The Nathan Mouse samples. This is a running joke for those of you guys who are not in the course. I like play the drums with my mouth and like do these examples. So this transition into this kind of last moment here, you kind of have a little bit of a crash there, but I think that you should bring that up. Yeah, I think that needs to come up, because to me it sounds a little bit like you get here and then it kind of... Yeah, the transition's louder than the landing point. And so that's just something I've actually talked about before as well, is if you're going to have a transition where you go shh, go like that. You don't want to just go shh, and then just like, unless you're like actually very intentionally just sucking everything up. You want to make sure the landing point is about as hard as the transition. So if you think about, your waveform comes up, you want the landing point to kind of pick up where it stops. So basically goes shh, and you want it to psh, so to speak. And so, that's one of those things that I would look at, is just make sure that whenever you have these nice big transitions, make sure that the landing point is as good as the swell itself. So you don't want to just kind of have this really cool, sick transition and then don't kind of land on it hard enough, so to speak. So that's one of those things I would just kind of look at. It's not a huge deal. I mean, this is really subtle. The other thing is, and this is one of those things for me, was the hi-hats. You do this triplet rhythm. It's like duh, duh, duh. I'm gonna go to that here. Yeah, so it's right there. Duh, duh, duh. So with these types of rhythms, what ends up happening is essentially when you have this nice solid rhythm, and you're kind of doing, especially with the hi-hats in particular, when you actually slow the rhythm down like this, like those triplets like that, to me, in this particular, so let me start by saying this. I think that in the right place, that can work really, really well. In this particular case, I feel like the hi-hats are the thing that's actually giving the forward motion, giving the forward momentum with this actual production. It's the thing that's pushing this whole thing forward is the hi-hats essentially. And so when you do this, I want to back up a second and just really pay attention to how the hi-hats are the thing that's kind of propelling the track forward in the sense of momentum. And so when you do this thing, then that kind of actually slows the momentum down a little bit. So we're going to back up here and just really pay attention to that. And again, this is not like a major deal. Like if you were not to change this, it's not like this, like, well, that ruins a track, right? That's of course not. What I'm saying is that, so Emily, yes, this will be available for replay. It'll just be on the channel long term. So excuse me. So with this particular section, one of the things that I would consider doing is actually doubling the speed of that triplet, because I think that the triplet is a really cool moment, like da da da, right? That's cool. But what you could do is like da 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 da. So instead of doing only 3, you actually do 6. And so right now you're doing an 8th note triplet, triple. But instead you could do triple da 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 1 2 3 4 5 6. Yeah, so like basically doing 6 notes instead of 3, because that triplet idea is really cool, and it's actually a really cool way of actually getting things going. And so if you actually double the speed of that, it'll actually propel it forward. And you already kind of do something with this snare a little bit earlier. Yeah, like that little, that's a really cool way of actually kind of stopping the motion temporarily and then getting back into that motion. Yeah, so that's cool. I think that's cool. Whereas the rest of this, where you do the triplet thing, again, I would just, yeah. That's awesome. The comments. So yeah, I would look at the 16th note triplet instead. Just if you're looking at your MIDI, then just triple that. Yeah, so that's what I'd say. I'm trying to think if there was anything else on here that did not want to miss anything. But I mean, honestly, overall, this arrangement is sounding really great. I think the sound selection's really solid. So just to kind of like recap on this, I would just say that second chorus, work on actually getting those percussion to have a little bit more of that ambient kind of underwater thing. Timo, how's it going? And then the second thing is make sure your vocals are just definitely more prominent. Take that bridge and make sure that the vocals are like the main thing. And then just some of these little detail moments like the transitions here and some of those things having to do with the hi-hat, I think that would be really, really solid. So, man, but seriously, for first time submission, this is really solid. We are going to move on to Roger. Roger, one of our OGs, been in the group for a long, long, long time. So Richie's son, this is these submissions, this live stream, for anyone who's attending and you just got here or whatever, this live stream is usually only exclusively in our private Facebook group for our Producer Accelerator members. So basically, if you want to submit, you have to be a member of our program. So we have a link in the description if you want to join, if you're interested in joining. We're just doing this here on YouTube as an opportunity for other people to kind of get an idea of what we do on the inside. Alrighty, cool. Let's do this. Ready? Roger, let's rock and roll.
Take a dog in hand, take a name in vain, take yourself a taste, silver twisted state, move across this land,
say. Oh, which is done and make the hatred fade away. No more burning, make them see the spirit is too great. Take their fire and drown it in the love that you once saved. And if their heart's desire don't change, then change it for us. Move into the shadows when the night is full of blackness. Gather all the sinners and begin the sacred practice. Waken to crescendo and tempo with lunar axis. Hold into the moment of the tilting of the axis. The moment of servant souls. The just turn and make the hatred fade away. Halos of the righteous burn their faces and their stain. All the chances that you gave repaid the grace of faith. Is this the ending of the age or a beginning of the world?
So just so you guys know, Forrest Whitehead is in the house. It's pretty cool when you get to have a dude like him. He's got like 5 #1 hits on the live stream. How's it going, Forrest? Good to see you. Hopefully your family's doing well. I know Forrest, they've been dealing with some sickness. Anyway, man, this is great. This is like such a jam. Like as soon as it started, I was like, oh, hey, this is kind of cool. The panning at the, okay, I'm just going to say this. Some people are probably going to love this, that maybe this is like a personal thing. The panning at the beginning here. I like it, but it's really aggressive. Yeah, I like it. And I just wonder if maybe you could do that so it's not going like all the way, but maybe it's kind of like going more like 25 on each side. That way it's not quite as jarring. But man, there's some really, really solid stuff in here. Jesse, I need to start smoking so I can sing like that. Oh man, Jesse, I couldn't even imagine you singing like that. Please do it with your accent, with your Australian accent too. Like, never mind, it's whatever. The bass on this is really rad. What's kind of funny is the producer that I learned from, this was like his MO, was doing these like really distorted bass parts that were just like so in your face. That's really hard to do, actually. Like, a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to get a bass part to actually sound really banging like that with distortion without it sounding like absolute just crap. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is the bass has like too much of that low stuff and the distortion is hitting that low stuff, and it just causes all sorts of problems. So I know you said you have live drums coming on this, so I'm not going to really comment too much on the drums. I like the vibe though. Because I know you said you're going for that kind of dirty vibe. Really dig that vibe. There's a lot of really good stuff happening in here. Oh shoot, I just got to the wrong person's notes. So the reason I asked if you have done mixing on this is because the vocals, I feel like the vocals could use a little bit of automation, where some of those louder parts, you're probably going to want to automate those things down, because compression, you're not going to want the compression to be the thing that's like really slapping down on it. You can definitely do more compression. I think the vocals could use more compression overall, especially in a genre like this. You can get away with quite a bit more, and even like parallel compression. But as far as the actual vocal itself, there's some moments, I'm trying to think of, did I make a note on where they were?
A talking hand, take the name in vain. Take yourself a taste, silver twisted state. Move across this.
Yeah, so some of those like high parts, you might just want to kind of like bring those down just a little bit, like just use a little bit of automation on that. So basically the automation curve would look something like, oops, not like that. Zoom in here. Let's say that this is the vocal right here that you're wanting to do. Put a little dot there. Kind of just go like that, and that should probably be able to do it. You're just doing a little V. You don't want it to be too crazy, because if you do too crazy, it's going to sound really bad. It's going to sound like ducking. So as far as... okay, so you're hoping feedback in that part more than production. Okay, so good. Glad I'm bringing that up then. So yeah, I think as far as that goes, you could definitely do more compression on the vocal. There's just no question. See you later, Philip, or Felipe. My gosh, like too many Phils, I know. So yeah, have a good night. But as far as the vocals go, I would probably automate some of those high parts. And this is one of those things that if I have a really dynamic vocal like this, where it's like really shouty for one moment and then it comes down, I'm going to go through that vocal kind of with a fine-tooth comb approach. Oh my gosh, why is that phrase completely... You know what I mean. Just go through it relatively. Yeah, you could use Vocal Writer. That's an option too if you have it. Otherwise, you could just go through and actually use automation. I don't think you're going to have to automate that much. You just go for those main parts and just kind of bring those peaks down. As far as the rest of this goes, the distortion, like the main guitar part that you've got going on once the guitars actually come in, I do feel like they're competing a little bit for space with that bass part. I feel like the bass part is probably the more important of the two, just because it just has a lot of juice to it. As far as the guitars go, you should probably try to just cut out some of those cut out some of those frequencies. My goodness, my language today is just like off. So let's see right in here, I think. Yeah, so I would, there's a lot of students here. Fine, comb, tooth. Okay, you know what, guys? Whatever. This guitar part here is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to just go ahead and pull up some EQ here, and we'll just kind of find out where this is. So. Yeah, so like somewhere in this ballpark here, you're going to want to scoop some of that out right there with your EQ on the guitar, because that's going to just, and you can even kind of see it on the graphic analyzer here. You've got a lot of stuff going on there. That's not a problem. It's just what's kind of going on. So as far as that's one of those big things I would do. Just carve out that space, because what's going to happen is that when you solo out those guitars, they're going to sound pretty weird in the sense of like they're not going to have a lot of that low stuff. But as far as the bass part, you're going to allow that bass part to have that much more of that space and room. Okay. The other thing was just as far as the performance goes, some of the words were a little bit hard to understand in the vocal, and that's some of a performance thing. So, and I understand genre-wise, part of it is the genre, where this genre, just the enunciation of words is not the same as it's going to be in other genres. So I'm saying that, so in other words, what I'm saying about the pronunciation thing, I'm saying take that with a grain of salt, because you ultimately need to decide, how important that is to you. But for me, I'm hearing this, and there are just some words where just the way that the vocalist is actually singing, it's a little hard to actually understand what's being said. Let me kind of back up here.
Sipping sifted sand, blistered lips away.
Roger, I love that. I'm the bass player. I want to be in the limelight. Well, you know what Guitar Hero says, right? I don't know if you guys ever played like Guitar Hero from like a long time ago. Like it was like Guitar Hero 2 or something. It always has those little quotes. What's the bass player good for? It's like, if you have to choose between a bass player and a mini fridge, pick the mini fridge. Which ironically is completely not true at all. Bass is super important. So like some of these words in here, though, I'm just saying it's just a little bit tricky to understand what he's saying. Some of that is just pronunciation thing. So I'm just saying it. I'm letting you know about it as an individual who, when I'm listening to this is how I'm feeling when I listen to it. You just need to ultimately decide for your audience, for what you guys are accomplishing, how important is that to you? And are you actually going to redo the vocals if it's that big of a deal? I don't know. It's kind of up to you. Yes. 2 minutes and 30 seconds here. Let's see if we can find this. 2:30-ish. Billy, I'm too old to know how to do emojis, but hand raised. That is so funny. I love it.
The moment of servant's
Okay, so this part here, the vocals, to me, he does I'm really listening to the pitch at this moment, and this is where this moment, it kind of is confusing for me as far as trying to track with what's happening pitch-wise in this vocal. It kind of sounds like he's doing like a little half step, which that's not in the key signature. And so that, I would just revisit this part. I would take a look at this part vocally. And again, I understand with this genre, you can kind of do some stuff that you maybe aren't going to do in other genres, but nonetheless, my initial gut reaction, which I'm always trying to really, really pay attention whenever I listen to these submissions, is what is my gut reaction? Because my gut reaction is very likely what other people's gut reaction is going to be. And so, yes, I can kind of listen to this and I can kind of track with, oh, this is why it is this way, when other people are not going to be able to figure out why it is that way. My gut reaction on this was, this moment, I was just a little bit confused because it was like, what is that melody kind of doing there? I like that he goes up, but then the way it kind of does stuff, it feels like it was an unsure moment, I guess you could say. That's kind of how it comes across. Another thing I'm just going to point out, and this is, again, one of those things where I don't know if this was done on purpose but Jack Black, that's awesome. I don't know if this was done on purpose or not, but the backup vocals here are hanging on to this phrase longer than the lead. And this is one of those things that you're going to, if it were me, I would edit this. So you can hear that the pan vocals are hanging on to that phrase longer than the actual lead vocal. And to me, that comes across more as a mistake than anything. And so whether it was done on purpose or not, sometimes we do things like this where we do them on purpose and we're like, oh, like this would be kind of cool to hang on to that or whatever. But as a listener, I'm listening to that. I'm thinking like, oh, like why are the vocals still hanging on there? So I'm just going to play this one more time here and just pay attention to that. Yeah, so that's just something I would take a look at. Oh my gosh. You guys are hilarious in the comments. Where was some other stuff? Oh yeah, the solo. Let's talk about the solo. Oh my gosh. You guys. Simon, by the way, Simon, you need to go back. There were some pretty good drum moments that I did vocally. So Simon Flames, he's the guy that, you can see Simon Flames in the comment section. He's the one who's, making the sample library for me whenever I do drum sounds with my mouth. We're actually making a sample library out of my drum sounds and we're going to sell it. I'm completely joking. We are not doing that. But he actually did make a video of putting everything together. It's hilarious. Okay, so my name is not Nathaniel. Let's chill out a little bit, okay? My gosh, this is getting crazy. It was a throw. Interesting. That is interesting. Okay, so that's not how I heard that. Now that you say that, that's very fascinating. I would still take a look at it because it does come across to me just listening to it. That's like, I'm not sure. The guitar solo, here we go. So when the guitar solo comes in here, yeah, so I think that this needs some rhythmic editing. There are just some rhythms that are coming in a little bit early, and so you're gonna want to go. Oh my gosh. This is getting out of control. The comments here are just hilarious. You got okay. Anyway, just like really pay attention to the actual rhythm of the guitar and just try to pay attention to some of these parts here where it's like just a little bit rushed. So like that's a little rushed. That's a little rushed. That's all good. Cool. Yeah, so I just go through, and again, like looking at your grid, go through, and I mean, I show you how to do this in the editing portion of the course. I would go through and make some of those tweaks with the edits. But man, this is, oh my gosh, you guys are hilarious. So no, honestly, this is really good. I mean, the production on this is really unique. I love the bass. I mean, there's not a lot of crazy stuff going on in terms of like just a lot of things going on, but it sounds nice and full. You should send me or post in the group when you are finished and have the drums done, because I think we would all love to. We would all love to hear what they actually sounds like when you get those drums. Okay, we're gonna move on to Rick. Am I saying that right? Rick Swin, first time submitter as well. We got a lot of good first time submitters here, so way to go. So let's go ahead and rock and roll. Here we go.
Threw myself into a book, turned the page and took a look for you. Born like brothers in a storm, no firelight to keep us warm. Tell it like it is, brother. Don't hold it back. Tell it like it is, brother. 'Cause truth is what we lack. People sleeping in their cars, dreams that die on boulevards. It's a shame. It's a shame. Cause when the good things pass you by, you reach for something you can't find. Tell it like it is, brother. Don't hold it back. Tell it like it is, brother. 'Cause truth is what we lack. I hear those voices in my head, in my head, in my head. An echo of the things I've said. Never thought that I'd miss you instead, but I do. I wanna get close to you. Sometime this week, maybe someplace where we both could meet. Maybe we'll have a drink or two, telling lies till the night is through. Like we used to do. Nobody makes it alone. Flesh and blood on cobblestone. There's no app on your phone for weakness. You fall down on your knees, you still throw you out the door. This town don't need your type anymore. Find it hard to understand the leather glove of the helping hand.
Solid. So another first timer submitter. I know some people are asking about the course. So yeah, Brandy was correct. It's $4.99 normally. We are doing $100 off for people who use the discount code all caps FBF stream. And just as a heads up, like we literally do not give that discount away except for like on our Black Friday sale. So pretty significant. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, this is pretty darn sweet. So, excuse me. So man, this was very unique. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. I think there's a lot of really good stuff happening. As far as the overall, okay, so I'm going to do what I do a lot. For those of you guys who have been watching these streams for a long time in the group, you're going to kind of laugh at me. Let's zoom out and look at like 10,000 feet up, looking down. Overall, I think this is a great song. Like I think it works really well. There's a lot of good stuff. To me, one of the things that I was thinking was that by the time we get to this moment in here, about 3 minutes in, yeah, a little bit further than 3 minutes in, I start to feel a little bit like I was, and I don't mean this at all in a negative way either. I just want to be very crystal clear. I started having to tell myself to continue paying attention. Now, the reason I say that is because essentially what we kind of get in this back half of the track is essentially stuff that we've already heard. We've already heard all the drums that are going on, the instrumentation, the vocals. You do a little bit of extra, some extra vocal sauce kind of in this section in here. Yeah, so there's some extra little sauce going on in here, but the back, section right in here, this is where I started feeling like, what's next? Like, where are we going from here? What's the thing? Like, what's kind of amping us up? And so I talk about this kind of a lot on these streams, and that is, what is the purpose behind doing something? So if we're going to keep repeating something, or not keep repeating, I just mean if we're going to repeat something, the question becomes, why are we repeating this? Are we repeating this because it actually is a really good moment to repeat it, and it musically makes sense to repeat it? Or are we repeating it because it kind of seems like the thing to do? And then if we repeat it, the question then becomes, do I need to repeat this in the same way that I've already done it? Or should I try to find ways to alter things so that way there is something continuing to essentially hook the listener into why should you continue listening? So, as sad as it is, like just the kind of direction that things are going musically, is that songs are really getting shorter and shorter. And I don't mean that, like, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying it is what's happening. And so we as producers and songwriters have to keep in mind that people's attention, if they're not excited by the time they're getting kind of close to the end, and if they start feeling like the song's coming to an end, but then it continues going, there's a much more higher chance that they're going to bail, essentially. And I see this on my YouTube channel too. So I'm like, this goes beyond music. Like if I start doing something in a YouTube video and people sense that, okay, like I think we're getting to the end, and then it's not the end, then people just bail. People just leave. And so that's one of those things that I've had to keep in mind with my channels. I'm like, okay, I got to keep it to the point, right? Like I can't just kind of keep staying stuff, right? So I don't mean any of this in like a super negative way. What I'm saying is like there's actually an opportunity here to really think through the question. Armin, I agree. I think songs, there's no reason you can't have a 4-minute long song. But the thing is, like, you got to keep it interesting, right? That's what my point is. And so I'm saying, this song is, over 4 minutes. It's almost 4.5 minutes. And so I'm saying the question should be, how can I differentiate this moment right in here, kind of at the end, to any other moment in the track? And that's my main point here. So if we were to kind of listen to this, let's go. Let's go a little further back. So the drums are very similar. The soundscape is similar. You got this pulse, that dun 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 dun. So editing the song has been on my mind for a while. Good to get that from you. Okay, good. I'm glad that we're on the same page with that, because I know that that's like one of the harder things to hear, right? And I know that, and I always try to say this with a spirit of kindness, that I'm not saying, well, man, the song's way too long, got to trim that thing. So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that try to just think through this from the perspective of how am I differentiating? That's the main thing. And so how can I make these moments different from each other? It doesn't have to be anything crazy or radical or, absolutely ridiculous. And then if you can't think through how to differentiate, then that might be a good indicator that, okay, does the song need to be as long as it is? And then you evaluate those things. I'm not saying you need to, make this, shorter. That's not what I'm saying. And we've had plenty of submissions where I'm just like, man, that was like a 5-minute track and I was interested the entire way through. In that, I'm just trying to give you more from a trying to give you a commercial perspective, as well as I'm understanding that, sometimes songs need to be 4.5 minutes long. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of the sense of, the perspective on that and like, why are we doing some of the things that we're doing? Okay. So let's get into some of the specific stuff here, because I wanted to kind of get that out of the way first. Some people had commented this as well. That kind of phaser effect goes on the vocals throughout. I was really wanting and kind of craving the vocal to have a little bit more of a natural tone, at least for some of it. And I think the choruses are actually a really good moment to do that, where you kind of dial it back a little bit. It starts to sound a little more natural. And that also, again, gives you a little bit of a differentiating element. So what you can do is, for example, in the verses, you're using this kind of phasery effect in your vocal and then clean it up during the chorus. These types of mixing tricks are used a lot, where you might have like a really dry vocal in a verse where there's very little reverb. It's very dry and sucked in. And then on the choruses, all of a sudden the vocals get a ton of reverb, and it's like, whoa, like all this space just happens. I actually did that on the single that I had released a couple months back. That's exactly what we did. It was like the verses were a lot more dry vocally, and then we threw a bunch of reverb on those choruses, where it's like, oh my gosh, like those sound huge. So you can really do that with any effect, like using effects section by section and thinking, okay, like how can I make this section sound? Oh, okay, I can kind of do this, and that's going to help that sound a lot better. But on the vocals, that's one of the big things. The other thing I was thinking is the vocals are a little bit sibilant. So I don't know if you're cranking some of the highs on these vocals with EQ. So if so, just dial that back a little bit. It just sounds a little bit sibilant especially in the beginning, where there's a little bit less happening. It's more noticeable.
More like brothers in a storm.
Yeah, there's a lot of shimmer, like just, it's very, very sibilant on the top there. So I would just take that down a little bit. Like, I'm not saying to take it all the way off. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying just bring it down just a little bit. And that's kind of one of those things that's a little bit trickier. The strings, wait a minute. Yeah. No, where on earth is this? Yeah, so some of the strings that you have in here, where you're kind of doing these like almost pad-like things where the strings are just kind of holding on, I would just make sure you're adjusting the expression on these strings, like the modulation. So it depends on the instrument you're using, depends on the samples that you're using. A lot of times you're going to use the modulation control to change the expression of those strings, okay? And so I'm just going to open up the automation and kind of show you how I typically do it. I'm using volume right now. So I'm using volume. This would actually be like your MIDI CC controls is what you'd be doing. Or 2-bar instrumental sections as transitions, not a good idea. It just depends on the song. So what I'm going to show you though is, let's just say, okay, we've got a bar right here, right? So we got bar 21. And so let's say you want your strings to sound a little bit more realistic. One of the ways you can do that is by doing something like this. And this is like the very simple thing. You're just bringing, again, I'm doing this as if it was modulation, not volume. Okay, so I just want to make that really, really, really crystal clear. What you would then want to do is go in and actually use a curve tool to then change the curve of this. So you can now see how this actually looks and how it's doing a curve. And that's going to give this da, da, da. Okay. And so, no, you're not using velocity. Velocity is going to make a difference on the whole thing, but velocity is not actually going to change it in time. Okay. So in time, you're going to have to use automation. You're going to have to use automation with modulation or expression control. Again, it depends on the actual instrument itself, on how that library was created, okay? But one way or the other, you're going to want those to be more dynamic. And so think about how like a live string player would do this. Da, na, da, right? So this up and down, the kind of swell, and it's kind of coming in and out, right? Push and pull. So you're going to want to do the same thing with your strings here, and that's one of the the main factors of getting your strings to sound more realistic is making sure that you're doing that. I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I did do that, but it's just you didn't do it quite enough. And so I don't know if you have done some of that already or not. If you have, you need just do more. Sometimes you got to be really aggressive. And I've noticed that with, like, for example, like East-West, the East-West strings, man, I feel like I have to go nuts on those. Like, I feel like I have to just like do it all the way up and down. Like, it's just ridiculous how much you have to actually do on those. Native Instruments, I feel like on their symphony libraries, not quite as much. STFU plugin work here. What's STFU? How do I not know what that is? Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, so that's one of those things. The other thing, I don't want to spend too much time on each individual thing here because there's other things I want to get to. Where is it? 146. Minute 46. Yeah, so what Madison said about using the mod wheel, absolutely. Like, that's what I try to do because it's a little easier to get it more natural, and then you can actually edit it after the fact if you want. So on this part here, so Master Song Studios, is a bad idea to use 2-bar instrumental sections as transitions. I think it just depends. I think I'd already answered that. It really depends on the actual song. For me, I tend not to use those. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do like a 4-bar instrumental, not a 2-bar. 2 bars is kind of not often used as much. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, just broadly speaking. This whole moment in here, when you get into this section, it's like 146. Kind of like a chorus. I think a really good thing you could do percussion-wise here is go to a ride instead of the hi-hat, just to give a little bit more of that wash. Just a nice ride cymbal doing the exact same pattern as your hi-hat, just eighth notes. So that's one thing I think is going to help just make this kind of feel a little bit more like, I mean, it does feel like a chorus. I'm just saying in general, that's going to help the drums again. And that's another one of those things you can do to differentiate, so your drums aren't doing the same pattern throughout the whole track. Oh, okay. What key is? Okay, yeah. No, you're not gonna want to do that with strings, because those samples, when you actually adjust the articulation or the expression control, it's actually changing the samples, which means as you start getting more dynamic, how a string player actually sounds when they start playing louder, it actually changes the sound, not just the volume. So that's why you need to be using the expression controls and not volume, because volume is ultimately just going to change the volume. It's not actually going to change the actual sound itself. So when you're using expression controls, that's what's going to help quite a bit longer. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny. Oh shoot, where was it? Oh, hi Piper. Hi sweetheart. This is Piper, my friendly studio pup. Come here. There we go. Piper to puppy. There we go. You hear her looking. Okay, so one of the things I was going to say though too. Oh yeah. So 155. There is kind of a moment here. Okay, so this little section in here, I don't really feel like this bass part is working. And this is like the only thing in the song that I felt like did not work. This is my opinion. You know, some people might love it. It just felt a little bit confusing harmonically because I'm not really sure what the chords that you're going for are. So, because the bass is changing in such a way. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny in the comments. So I'm going to play this again and just like really pay attention to what the bass is doing here. I like where it lands. Dun, dun, dun. I think that it's awesome. Yeah, Piper's a good pup, usually is a good pup. She can be a little psychotic sometimes, but we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, this whole bass part, I would probably just try to rework this. I'm trying to think of what you could do instead. Dun, 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 dun. I think it's the first note. Yeah, I think it just really adds a lot of instability to the chords. I thought that I missed you instead. Boom. Yeah, so I think that the note instead dun dun, that's the note you should do. Bum 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 bum. That would probably be a little better. Bum 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 bum. I think that would make a little bit more sense. Yeah, what's up, Jammer man? How's it going? Good to see you. So yeah, that's one of those other things I was gonna say. Really specific thing, but one of those things that I would just take a look at. Yeah, there was one other thing I want to kind of hit on, then we gotta move on, and that was. Yeah, this part here is really where I feel like you should try to think through how you can differentiate this this arrangement. It is right here going into this next section. I'm going to play just a little before it.
Nobody makes it alone.
Yeah, I feel like you could add something like, first of all, go back to the ride, add the ride symbol in there. That's going to just give us a little bit more wash. The other thing I was thinking is adding something a little bit higher that does more like a counter melody type of a thing. I'm going to pull up, I have a piano sound right here I could pull up, and I'm going to figure out what key we're in here first.
Makes it alone. Flesh and blood on cobblestone.
Okay, so you're in E flat. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play some suggestions, because right now a lot of what you're doing. Yeah, E flat, C minor, same thing. I mean, not really, but they're enharmonic. Okay, so I'm going to just play out a couple things, and what I'm going to suggest is you do something a little bit higher that is a little bit more of a counter melody. So I'm going to play this and just kind of listen one time.
Nobody makes it alone. Flesh and blood on cobblestone. There's no
Yeah, and then that chord chart, that chord is where things get a little bit.
Nobody makes it alone. Flesh and blood on cobblestone.
Something like that, just something a little bit higher, a little more shimmier. It doesn't have to be a piano sound. It could be any number of things. You know, it could be an electric piano, but that's kind of a cool little melody. Yeah, something like that. I think that could work really well.
There's no app on your phone for weakness. You fall down on your knees. They still throw you out the door. This town don't need your type anymore. Find it hard to understand.
All in all, just saying, just find something above there. I think that'd be a good way of differentiating this whole section here. I think that's a good moment to do it, because at that point it's a repeat. You were kind of getting back into something that we've already heard before, and I think that's just a good spot to kind of change things up. I know I just hit you with a lot of stuff, Rick. So if you have any questions, just email me. I'll be more than happy, or just post in the Facebook group, and I'd be more than happy to give you a little bit more help. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to Cassie Crispin, since apparently I completely typed her name in here wrong. So sorry about that. Vocals is just being ignorant and not sitting in the mix. Yeah, well, I mean, I have only so much time, and I would personally say that some of the things that I've talked about here are probably a little bit more important than that. He can always come back to those things, and I think the phaser kind of effect is definitely one of the things that would help for sure. Okay, so we're gonna rock and roll with Cassie here.
Must be something, yeah, there's something you do. Though I try, I can't keep my eyes from you. Give me some time.
So I think this is a really good example of a song that's 4.5 minutes that I wouldn't shorten this. So we just so people are really clear. I'm not just like sitting over here advocating like your songs need to be 3 minutes long max. What do you think, Piper? You agree? You agree? Yeah. You agree. This is a great song. Like I think the song is really well done on this. The song structure is very good. I think it really makes sense. The layout of this makes a ton of sense. I think I agree with Keith. There's lots of potential. I think that there are some definite things you could do. Actually, it's kind of funny. Some of the people already said it. The key change. I think at this moment here.
Think you already know.
Think about doing a key change up right there. That's actually doing a key change where you're not expecting it to be, because it's kind of you already did it. Think you already know. Do, and then like going up there, you need to try it. I don't know if it would work necessarily, but I think that would be interesting to try. I don't think you have to put a key change. That's definitely an option. I think you would probably want to go there. Oh my gosh, Piper, you're hilarious. So as far as the rest of this goes, your voice is phenomenal. I think overall, vocal production is the big thing that kind of screams at me as far as one of the biggest things you could do to just really increase the quality of this is definitely vocal production on this. I mean, I could hear tons of harmonies, tons of background vocals, even gang vocals on this last chorus. I think gang vocals could really just take this over the edge in this last chorus in particular.
Think you already know.
And since we're here at this moment, I think this is a moment we need to talk about, because this transition was probably the thing that I was like, man, I just really wanted something bigger. So you're already doing strings here. So I'm going to suggest something. I'm going to actually go ahead and show you here. I'm going to pull up some instruments. Let's go ahead and pull up some strings. I'm just going to do the symphony. Oh, what the heck? What the heck? Where is you? Percussion, string, symphony, string. Let's just do violins. I'm just going to pull violins here. Legato. I think you could do like a run leading up to this.
Think you already know.
Think you already know. Okay. Oh my gosh. Some sort of a run. And then you could just include the strings here. I think this could be a really big moment where your strings... Because right now you have the strings doing this kind of lower thing. Think you already know. I think you could do more strings up, soaring.
Think you already know. You're the greatest story of mine. When I'm with you, I'm home. Yeah, I just want you to be.
Man, I'm like having a hard time with this chord progression. You're in like B flat, B major. Anyway, I'm thinking you do something higher up, one way or the other, with the strings. I think like doing some soaring strings here, because you have this kind of down up in this area, but then all this stuff up here. What's... I don't know, whatever the chords are. One way or the other, I think doing something up high would be like, just listen to this. I'm going to kind of play with you here.
Think you already know. You're the greatest story of mine. When I'm with you, I'm home. Yeah, I just want you to be mine. It's the...
Something like that would be really cool, you know, but do it with the strings. So your strings are da 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 da, and then you're adding in the vocal layers. I think you're doing the other thing is with the drums here.
Think you already...
Yeah, doing like a ride here is the other thing that would really, really help just a ton, okay? I think it would really help a ton. In fact, let me go ahead and actually just show you what I'm talking about. I would probably, I'm just going to pull up just a drum I know I can do really fast. Let me kind of show you what I would do with the drums here. Might be nice if I actually have this activated. So yeah, do something with the ride here.
Think you already know you're the greatest story of mine. When I'm with you, I'm home. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. That ride alone, just by adding that ride, it just adds so much kind of like depth to this whole thing. Definitely something you should consider. The other thing is adding tambourine in here. You know, something like that definitely is going to help a lot. And then, like I said, doing the vocal production, I would be adding doubles, pan them right, pan them left, really nice wide vocals, do some harmonies, and then throw in gang vocals in here. I mean, you could just do some really, really cool stuff. So I think there's some really solid stuff that you could do in this production on the end, especially. Now, as far as the rest of this go, we're going to kind of back up a little bit. The guitar here at the beginning, I really like what you start out with here. FBF stands for Feedback Friday. Okay, so I like a lot of this. This is really solid. Now, once the vocals come in here, this is where you see all these kind of like empty spaces. Hold on a second. There we go. So you have these like little empty spaces in here. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what I'm going to kind of show you what I do here.
Must be something, yeah, there's something you do. Though I try, I can't keep my eyes from you. Give me some time. Just give
So, man, key signatures, that's the thing.
me some time. Just give me some time. Think
Ah. Something like that would be really cool. Nah, I'm like having a hard time for some reason. This is a key signature I don't play in as much.
you already know you're the greatest story of mine. When I'm with you, I'm home. Yeah, I just want you to be mine. It's the
I just think overall, I'm trying to just kind of like play some stuff to try to make sure I can give you good feedback too. I just think that the piano could, like the keyboard part in particular, could just be a little bit more active. So you're just kind of sitting on these chords like. Like, for me, if I was like in the band, so to speak, playing this, I would be wanting to kind of just take this and go a little bit further. Ah. Oh my gosh, what the heck? I feel like a newbie. Anyway, that I think you can get my point. It's not a lot. Like, I'm not just like going nuts over here, but I think just doing these little moments, but where when you have these pauses vocally, it kind of opens up the door a little bit for the rest of the instrumental to do something. Anyway, something like that. That's kind of the idea. I'm looking here, my notes. Oh yeah, so this snap here,
Am I stuck in my head again?
yeah, so this snap here, it sounds a little dull. And I think that this is definitely one of those things. So we're gonna be doing these Feedback Fridays once a month on YouTube. As far as the snaps go, I would add some brightness to this, so you can definitely use some EQ and just crank a little bit of the highs on that. The other thing I was thinking about doing is, try actually adding some reverb on these. You kind of do it a little bit later on with that kind of like clap thing in the bridge, I think it is. But doing that in here would be helpful as well. Simon, oh my gosh, just like promoting all the stuff. But as far as the snap here, I think that this was definitely one of those things that you're going to want to just add a little bit of reverb onto, a little bit of shimmer. That's definitely going to help a lot. I'm looking at my notes here again. This moment here, like 2 minutes 19. Where is that? 2 minutes 19. 2 minutes 19.
Time. Thank you.
Oh, Jesse. So here's an idea. When you do this time. What I was thinking is do another snap, okay, right on this last beat, and then just stop it, just like time, boom, and then kind of get into it. So I'm going to kind of like fake this, okay? I'm going to try to fake it. So end right there, drop off like right here. This is going to sound weird because obviously I'm doing this to the whole track. This would not be how exactly you'd want it to sound, but again, you can get the idea.
Thank you.
Again, that doesn't sound very good because I'm doing that to the master instead of the individual tracks, because if you have some reverb that kind of spills over, time, 3, 4, 1, 2, boo, bum, up, down, okay, I think that would be really helpful. Either that or add a bigger transition into this. But I think doing something where you actually kind of cut it off is going to sound better in this particular case. Yeah, I think so for sure. I already talked, I think, a little bit about this, but in the chorus, I would add some ride and then shaker and tambourine potentially.
You make me feel. Think you already know. You're the greatest story of mine.
Boom, there you go. Like just adding that ride in there just takes that and just like really elevates that whole thing. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. As far as the rest here. Oh yeah, so this like string thing in the bridge was definitely unexpected. One of the things that I was thinking about in this little bridge was, and I'm going to play this, and I want you to just really think about the fact that there's not really a melody, so to speak, with this. Like it's big, you got the strings, everything's kind of louder at this point, but the question that kind of comes to my head is what's actually keeping me interested beyond, oh, it's bigger. All right, so it's like the chords are changing and stuff, and that's really great. The other thing you could do is like, no. Dun, dun, dun. Just add like a staccato thing in here. That's going to make this sound really cool. Check this out. You know, something like that. That's actually, I love that. That's actually really cool. So that's like giving something that's not a melody, but it's like kind of an ostinato pattern. So you're doing, There you go, even higher. I love that. That sounds so cool. So something like that just like adds a little bit more extra something there. And then here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna actually record this. I'm gonna kind of like I'm gonna kind of build this up here. Just humor me, okay? Just hang tight. Here we go. Okay, we'll just do that much, okay? So here's strings 1. Okay, we're gonna duplicate this track since we, are gonna just do more strings. And then we're gonna do this. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna change this a little bit. Da, 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 da. Here we go. Something like that, because what you're doing is you're adding multiple layers to this. So you're adding the I love that, Madison. You just said there, I love that. So the line between production and composition is pretty wiggly. I really believe that if you are a better composer, you are going to be a better producer. 1000% true. 1000% true. Okay, so what happens if you look at if you can even look at the MIDI notes here of what's happening. You have one texture, which is the that whole thing. The second one, notice that it's elongated. These notes are not happening as fast. So this melody is actually slowed down because you already have like a multi-dimensional thing. So a really good arrangement trick is if you're going to have something that's doing a lot of notes, do something else that does not have a lot of notes to actually contrast this. Does that make sense? So you've got that. And then the other thing you could do here. Okay, so you got that. And then again, you add this ride in here with the drums. Check how this sounds. Ah. Okay, so something like that. Well, oh no, what happened? There we go, pointer tool, there we go. Let's open up this MIDI here and make sure that we're actually playing the right things. Let's get rid of that. Da, da. I think you get the idea. I could keep going, but I think you understand. Okay, so obviously here, let's just get rid of all that. Let's go back to what it was originally. Go. Okay, cool. And then we add the strings in. I mean, it's just 3 things, right? It's actually kind of crazy how much just adding a couple different little things, but doing it kind of more intentionally, where you're thinking about, oh, like what am I trying to accomplish with this whole thing? So yeah, I think that actually would do really well. Yeah, that's fun. I could sit here and just do this do this more and keep going. But one way or the other, I think you can kind of see what I'm getting at with like, make this moment, like if this is going to be the moment, then make this the moment, right? Like make it the moment and allow people to kind of really enjoy it and like have fun with it. You know, I mean, like you could even go more than this. You could do more than that. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, Brandy is a phenomenal composer just because she's probably too humble to say it. She's a very good composer. So anyway, this is fun. Any other questions for you guys? Obviously I know we usually wrap this up around 4:30, which is 5 o'clock my time. I know we got people all over the world right now, but we went a little longer because the technological issues to start out. So I do apologize for that. Do we have any last kind of thoughts, questions, comments? What things you guys wanted to know? Piper, you ready to be done? Is that what you're doing? Piper's saying, let me upstairs. I want to go see mommy. Of course, Cassie. Let me know if you have any other questions and would love to hear how this sounds when you're all finished. How to Train Your Dragon. That's a good film score. Yep. Okay, so again, for anyone who is not in the Producer Accelerator course and is like, what's going on? What is all this? We do this every single week in our program, in our private Facebook group. This is actually the very, very first time that we've ever done it publicly. We're going to start doing it once a month, just as a way of showing you guys who are not students kind of what happens, at least just a sneak peek into what actually happens, you know, on the inside. I mentioned this earlier, but if you're interested in Producer Accelerator at all, this isn't just some grab for your money or whatever. We actually try to bring you guys a ton of value. We obviously do this every single week. And as far as price and all that stuff, we have $100 off for using our FBF stream is the discount. It's in the description down below if you're kind of like, oh, I'd love to be involved or whatever. This is literally just like one part of what we do. So we have, you know, the whole course component as well, which is the program. And then we have the private community as well, where I'm in there all the time. We've got Jesse Keller, who was on the stream for a little bit. He's one of the guys that helps out. Matt is another one. Brandy, you guys see her. She's on the team. So we've got a pretty solid team. And anyway, yeah. Any other questions, you guys? I'm open to answering some questions if you guys want. Oh my gosh, sell your kidney. Just sell your kidney. Do you have price plans for those outside the US, even with $100? Yeah, so we can, we do not do the $100 off for our monthly payment. It's just if you do the one time. So unfortunately that's pretty much how we have it set up. So, but if you do 2 payments, it's like $249 for 2 months, but we don't split it out beyond that. I'm loving this. Yes, that's awesome. So also just as a heads up, like I'm planning on starting to stream every single week on the YouTube channel. Probably in the next week or two is when I'm planning on starting. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to start doing that every single week. I'm just going to be producing music live. So like what I did here with Cassie's track, I'm going to be doing that every single week, just like making music, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So I'm really excited to start doing that. Gives me an opportunity to also make sure I'm staying up on my own game as well too. So I used to do that more, and things just got crazy busy with last year and all that stuff. So I am excited to continue doing that. We're actually, like right now I'm using just like the webcam right here. It's not a bad webcam, but we are actually in the process of upping the quality. We're going to start actually getting all of the, Noah, yes, this will be uploaded. You'll be able to watch it. It usually takes like an hour for these longer streams to actually process, but yes, it will be available. The first like 10 minutes, I apologize. I will probably go back and edit the first like 10 minutes because, yeah, it was pretty bad because the technology problems. But as far as just like the stream, we're going to be doing more of these. So, yep. Wade, you're welcome, of course. Any questions, y'all? I just want to make sure that I make myself available to anyone who does have questions or anything. It could be anything production related, songwriting related, composing related. I am obviously a geek and a nerd. So happy to chat all the things, as you guys know. Otherwise, we'll just wrap her up. But I'm willing to answer questions. So just take advantage of it while you can. Clap chain. There we go. Master, how long is the discount for? You can use that discount forever. There's not an expiration date on that discount, but the only time we talk about that discount is when we start doing these live. So you can use it anytime. It just means that you watched one of these, and that's why we're giving it away. Lace, I love you. You're awesome. We got a bunch of people here who have been in the community for just like forever. So I love it. Like Lace has been doing this, has been here for over a year. Brandy's been here for over a year. A lot of people who have been here for a long time. So that's awesome. Simon, I'd ask a theory question, but I know no theory. That's awesome. Master Song Studios, like I just said, the discount does not expiration. There's no expiration for that. So. Chuckles, what are the go-to for strings? Yeah, so Native Instruments right now has been my go-to. Their Symphony, actually, it's what I was using here earlier. You can see, let me share my screen again. So String Ensemble by Native Instruments has been kind of my go-to recently. I used to use East-West a lot more, but honestly, the East-West strings, they're just so large. Like the actual samples are so big that it just causes a ton of problems. How'd you produce a piano-only song? Anything special to do? Yeah, so I mean, like with the piano-only song, like main thing is you just want the piano to sound very rich. And so that's the one thing when I hear like piano songs that are just like piano and vocals, or even just like piano solos, the pianos just sound as if it was like a piano that was meant to be in an actual production. And so as a result, it's not mixed in such a way where it has the full frequency spectrum. So just make sure that's nice and rich and fat. Any other questions? What velocities should you use to make MIDI instruments sound real? So velocity matters a lot less than mod control. Okay, so when you're doing instruments like this one right here, let me actually pull this up again. So like this right here. Come on now. Okay, so we've got this. I could play this any different velocities. Like right now I'm going to play it really soft. Ready? Really loud. Did it change the sound at all? Absolutely not. It did not, because what the dynamic control is actually right here. So it's not linked to velocity. In this case, it is actually linked to the mod wheel, which if I were to play with the mod wheel, you can see that dial is moving. That's because I'm moving the mod wheel. Now watch this. So that's what I'm actually using as the mod wheel instead of actually doing velocity. So it really depends on the mod wheel, not anything else. Here we go. Yep. Yeah, so clarification. Okay, so the BBC Orchestra Core sounds great. It was like 400. Yeah, the Spitfire stuff's really good. I just haven't gotten in the Spitfire universe as much because I already feel like I have a pretty good set of stuff. Do I have any more producer battles coming up? Yes! Heck freaking yes. In fact, I'm doing a rematch with Forrest Whitehead. So we already have the vocal. So heck yeah, we are doing those. We're going to try to start doing those like once a month, but it's just challenging because they take a lot to produce. It's just they're quite challenging to produce. So just for clarification about that discount for the FBF stream discount, it is good. That discount is good if you pay for the one time. It is not good if you do a split payment. Okay. So in other words, if you do a split payment, it is full price. Okay. So that discount code is good for the full price, not the split payment, just like the one-time payment. It gets really confusing with those discounts on split payments. So that's unfortunately why we have it set up that way. I wish we could just do like 50 off of each, but it just doesn't do it that way. Sweet. Yeah, no, the song that Forrest and I are doing, I'm stoked. He hasn't heard the track yet, I don't think. So yeah. Simon, want to do it? Want to do a metal challenge? That'd be sick. Let me know if you have the video equipment to make the video. That's honestly one of the biggest challenges with doing those producer battles is just getting other producers who can also get the footage that we need to look really awesome and stuff. I think that's actually the biggest challenge. So Forrest, he's actually got a camera guy. So I have a camera guy now. He has a camera guy. So so just so you guys know, if you were paying attention at the end of the year, last year, like for the last 3 months of the year, we did not post a lot on the YouTube channel. We were very, very busy with other things, but we are like 8 videos ahead right now. So just so you guys know, we are legit having a video come out every single week starting like last week. So it's pretty sick. Okay, Jay Matthew, how do you feel about producing melodies in a purpose sense where you make the core of the song and then making the rest of the context of different? I think it's great. Yeah, I don't think there's any one right way or wrong way. A lot of times I'll start writing a song based on just like one melodic idea that I have, and then I'll literally just like record it onto my phone. I'll come back to my computer, I'll throw it in, and then I start just like piecing things together. I mean, other times I have like a chorus idea, but I have no idea what the verse is going to be. Actually, the song that I wrote, Coming Back, that's the single that I have on Spotify that we just released a while back. And then we also have the video on how we produced it. I produced that track in the mountains out of my car. We like turned my car into a recording studio. But the song actually, oh my gosh. I had the idea for the chorus, but I did not know how the rest of the song was going to go. And we actually started producing the song, like actually producing the instrumental before we had all of the lyrics and melodies and stuff like that. In fact, I believe we had produced like 80% of the song and we still did not have a bridge. And so the bridge was like empty. There was like literally nothing in the session for the bridge until we got into it. So yeah. Would you recommend the NT1? Not really, to be honest with you. The Rode NT1 is just not, I mean, I know a lot, I'm probably going to make some people mad. There are much better mics, in my opinion, for that same price. Like the Lewitt mics, in my opinion, if you're going to go with like a mid-tier mic, or a mic that's a little bit more affordable, I would probably either go with like an Audio Technica, or I would go with like the Lewitt 440 Pure or something like that. The Lewitt 440 Pure is like a $250 mic, somewhere in that ballpark. And I've been shocked by how good it is. I actually did a shootout in a recording session. You can check out the song that we did. It was the Ocean Eyes, Lonely Eyes mashup that we did like 6 months ago. And I had a female vocalist who came in, Mary Lanka, and we did a shootout with all of my mics, ranging from the Lewitt, which is a $250 mic, all the way up to my Jay-Z mic, which is like a $1,500 mic, and the Lewitt 1. It just sounded better on her voice. So it's a great mic. And I think that this also goes to show that, yeah. Master Song Studios, can you talk to Nathan in the class? Yeah, so in the private community, I'm in that group every single day. So yeah, I'm answering questions and I'm giving feedback and stuff like that in the course. So yeah. Rode NT1 is wicked for video interviews, but I mean, yeah, it's just there's some tonal stuff vocally, like when you sing into it, that I've kind of noticed. And it's not, again, you can make it work. I'm not saying you can't. There are plenty of people that use the NT1 just fine, but I just think that there are some better mics. As far as video chat, no. So that's just not in the purview of the program. So you just something to keep in mind, Master Song Studios, we have like over 500 people in the course. So there's just no way I can do video chats with everybody. So that's why we do these live streams. And then, yeah. There we go. If anyone's open to browsing reverb or eBuff for all mics, nice. Cool. Alrighty, well, we are going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for hanging out. I know we went quite a bit longer than normal, but this has been fun. Like I said, we're going to start doing this the first Friday of every single month. We will be joining or doing this in the YouTube community. Okay, so thank you guys again for hanging out. This has been a ton of fun. Some really great submissions. I'm gonna end it here. If you guys were not able to watch the first parts, you can go back and watch it later. I'm gonna edit out the whole technological problem since that was kind of not cool. So there you go. Cool. See you later.